Hey guys, Dan here,
And Frank from the Mini Squad
and we have
with a
a
special
yeah
guest.
special guest here, Blake McCarthy from Territory. Uh, yeah, so why don't you
We've
take it
we've
away?
covered issue 1, 2, and 3, and Blake's got some news for us here, and we're gonna just talk about what's coming down the line as well.
Well, yeah, well, thank you guys for having me on. Like they said, my name is Blake McCarthy. I am the writer for Territory. And yeah, so we've got the first 3 issues out, done our first 3 Kickstarter campaigns, and we are working on issue 4 now. There's been some changes, which we will get into here in a little bit, which has been why there's been a bit of a delay. But we're back on track now, and I'm excited to get it out to you guys. So hopefully here in the next couple months, we should be ready to go with issue 4.
Oh, awesome, man!
Perfect.
Do you plan on staying on Kickstarter for the next campaign?
Yeah, so it's going to be a 5-issue miniseries, is how it was kind of written, and we're gonna do all 5 issues on Kickstarter.
Awesome.
Yeah, we are looking at possibly looking at doing some publishing with the book, but right now, just to make sure that we can get it done, and we're going to be doing 5 Kickstarter campaigns. So the idea originally, I wanted to have this last campaign out in kind of spring this year. So this one's coming out a little later, but hopefully we should be able to get both campaigns done this year and
Oh,
wrap it up.
wow. Oh, awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I really like when the comics go Kickstarter. I don't prefer Kickstarter. It's just I find that the comics that we funded and backed have had a lot more success on Kickstarter. I don't know if people are just more familiar with it and other sites kind of deter them. Like, I don't mind Indiegogo. If I like the comic, I'll fund it wherever it is. But I just feel like there's always more success on Kickstarter for some reason.
100%. I mean, I think it's the biggest platform,
Yeah.
and it's a really good platform for comics. There's sort of an established audience already on Kickstarter for comics specifically, and then it's also good because I think Kickstarter does a good job of sort of bringing back. Keeping people updated when you have new things going on. So
Yeah.
we have kind of looked at some other platforms, but because it's the first 3 campaigns have been very successful. I've been very happy with them, but it's still not to the point where I feel like it. I could really take it somewhere else. I think it kind of needs that Kickstarter support, and and honestly, it's been a good platform for us. It's worked so far, and so I see no reason to change it right now.
Oh, awesome. No, I agree. I'm glad that you're sticking with them.
Yeah, no, I'm a
Um,
big fan of Kickstarter, and I feel like the recent changes that they made with like add-ons and stuff has really brought it to like being a great platform. Instead of having to pick your specific tier, you can pick the tier and then also get like the extra goodies that you want instead of having to go up to like an even higher tier.
Definitely. As a creator, it makes it a lot easier because then instead of trying to figure out, well, do I, how many packages do I make? What do I include in each package? I can sort of, just, it allows me to just make what we want. And then, any extras that we want to make, we can do it. And whoever's interested in it can do it. But I don't have to work on, customizing every little thing. It kind of, allows the customer to do it, which is how it should be anyways. So.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's really awesome. Um, yeah, I mean, like I said, we've been reviewing issues 1, 2. I believe the issue 3 review we actually recorded prior to
Yeah,
this.
we
It'll be
did.
up in a little.
Yeah, I've been holding off
So we
waiting
have
for
everything
this.
covered. So like I said, like I said a little earlier too, we loved issue 3. You promised that it was going to be an epic kaiju issue, and it was packed. And I actually absolutely did not see it going where it did. I was just like awestruck when I saw the final result of that battle. I was like, wow. I mean, the Great Horn is like, from what I've seen from the beginning of the series, I'm like, oh, this is like the lead man here for the series. And I don't know, spoilers, everybody. He got taken out. He wasn't
Oh,
the
that's
Great One.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's awesome. I'm glad you guys have enjoyed it so much. I really appreciate it. And like we were actually just kind of talking a little bit earlier, that was my favorite issue to write because this is, it's been fun building this world, but this was the first time we really got to have the kaiju go at it and really sort of focus on the kaiju action.
Yes.
And so it was a lot of fun to write. And then Chris Sassman, the artist, did such a good job. You know, he's so good with capturing sort of the action and the flow, that the way he brought it to life, I thought turned out amazing. And I'm glad that, I'm glad that the twist kind of worked, because definitely, it was hard once it kind of created this character, and I really liked the Great Horn. It was a fun character to create. It was a fun character to work with. So it's kind of hard to kill him off. But it definitely, I felt like building him up in the first 2 issues to be this, sort of amazing thing that people are just going to assume is untouchable. It would really make it impactful, when he does lose. And, that way you would be kind of feeling like the characters, like Alkia and Nebo, where you're like, this thing is awesome. It's, this is the greatest thing. And so then when that doesn't happen, you get some of that same shock that the characters are feeling right now.
Oh, absolutely. Like, speaking of Alkia and Nebo, like, where do those names come from? Are they, did you just make them up? Is there like some sort of like connection to like a tribal thing? Like, it's a very tribal feel this comic has.
Yeah, so I did just make them up. They're not based, as far as I know, off of any sort of, language or anything. My thought behind it was, I wanted, because the idea behind the world of Territory is that it's far enough in the future that it's removed from our world, and you see that sort of in the way they talk about our technology and everything. Like, there's remnants of our world, but this is, our world is basically forgotten by this point. And so, to me, kind of adding these new names, making them unfamiliar to us, would be another thing that kind of shows, no, this is a different, this isn't something that's just happened. This is way in the future. This is a different world than we're living in. These people are very disconnected from us. They're aware of us, but everything's changed.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, you did a great job with that, because that's how you feel. Like, they talk about, like, it's almost like planes are a thing of myth. Like, we used to be able to fly across the ocean, and you did a really good job. Is there any other media that served as like somewhat inspiration to us? Like, because I've always said I get like Horizon Zero Dawn vibes from it a little. Any movies, video games, books?
Yeah, so I actually hadn't played Horizon when I wrote Territory. I've since played it, and the whole time I was playing it, I was like, wow, there are a lot of similarities here. I do think, because I'd seen it, and so I think probably some of the idea for like the aesthetic of it, sort of that, post-apocalyptic, but going back to tribal, I think there was probably some inspiration there. As far as like the world itself, I mean, there was no kind of in one thing in particular. I've always been a big fan of like the Fallout series, just the way that they build such a complete post-apocalyptic world that, not only do you get the story of what happened, but you get sort of all the story of how things have changed and where people are at now. And then just things like Sweet Tooth, where there's a big thing was I really wanted to show this was sort of a world reclaimed by nature. These kaiju are supposed to be very, sort of natural looking. They're not, I feel like kaiju has such a wide range of designs, and these are supposed to be more the natural looking, almost, beast-like sort of interpretation. So, like Sweet Tooth and things like that, where there's a very sort of, nature's retaken over the world after we've kind of left it. That was sort of the inspiration.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's one that's been on my list. I have not got to watch or even read the Sweet Tooth series yet, but I know it's very popular.
It's cool. I definitely recommend it.
Yeah.
And the horns, the similarity with the horns and the Great Horn too. Like,
yeah.
When it came to the kaiju design, do you know what you want, and then you pass it over to the artist and be like, I want it like this? I know the Great Horn's like pretty much straightforward. It's like a bear with horns, but then these last two were like super, like, I'd say they were pretty intricate designs. Like, this one was like a snake, kind of scorpion, kind of. Was that all your idea, or you kind of like spoke to the artist?
Yeah, so what I did, and kind of like you said, kind of going back to my other point, these were supposed to feel very natural. So they were supposed to be very based off animals and sort of this mutant animal look. Like these are, sort of what's kind of come out of, this nuclear type event that's happened sometime in the past. And so they're mutated, they're ugly, but they're still recognizable as animals we would see. And so that was about as far as I gave Chris was, here's sort of the general idea, here's sort of the animal characteristics. I tried to pick kind of animals from like different regions. The great horn is, so I'm from Colorado, and he's very much a Rocky Mountain type of creation. He's got the bear, sort of the elk, the deer antlers. The Aquamassus was supposed to be more sort of aquatic, being on the coast, having some sort of, frog and crab and crustacean type stuff. And then the model Ishki was more like desert based with, the snake and the scorpion and stuff like you said. So I gave him sort of a general idea of, I had an idea in my head of what it would look like, and I kind of told him, these are sort of the animals I'm thinking. This is more or less kind of what I'm seeing. But like you said, especially with the last two, he definitely kind of took it and just ran with it, added a lot more detail. Really, I think he did a good job of capturing that monstrous aspect, making him look, very mutated, very, these aren't just like the creatures we see today. These are a whole new species that's, evolved and changed and is completely different. And that he took a simple idea and made it look way cooler than, it would sound on paper.
Yeah, no, definitely. I really liked the last kaiju because I don't know. I originally thought it was based off like Utena, like the Native American monster, although it didn't quite have the bird characteristics. But now I'm like, yeah, like desert, scorpion, snake. I'm like, that makes so much more sense for the design.
Totally. And a lot of the sort of general mythology, and obviously, like you said, the tribes and everything, Native American sort of mythology and stories and, kind of beliefs as far as like, especially beliefs towards the land and creatures. And, and this is kind of a literal manifestation of a lot of the beliefs of having, these sort of creatures as gods. This is just kind of taking that, a step farther. So that was, there are a variety of Native American sort of legends and stuff that were definitely an inspiration for both the creatures and then just sort of the general stories of the book.
All right. No, definitely. Yeah. And then I just wanted to know, like I was the second issue. I'm just so like, what were those creatures? Are we gonna get an answer for that in the future?
So I don't want to spoil anything. I will say with those specific things, not really. Those were the idea behind that was kind of showing that, even when these creatures are destroyed, that their impact is so great that they're still going to have sort of a legacy. So even though the Aquamassus or the main one was destroyed, you can still tell it's having an impact on the environment around it. It's these creatures that were, by the skeleton have now sort of mutated, sort of taken on its characteristics. So it was more just sort of another way to try to show, these, wherever these things go, they reshape everything around them. They're very, kind of godlike in that way. And so showing it, even though this has died, it's still having an impact on the creatures around it. That was just, and plus it was just fun to add some more monsters.
Yeah, no, I was like, when that happened, I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah, no, it's really been a great series so far. One of the things that have you seen the series Midnight Mass?
I have not.
I was saying because Falric, the healer, he reminds me of one of the characters. Her name was Bev, and she was like, it's basically about a church, and a vampire ends up taking over the church, and one of the main ministers, her name's like Bev, and she was like the head of the town almost, like, and she was like a super religious woman, and she always painted her, she thought of herself as like the best person on this little island because she was the most faithful, and anytime something went awry, like she would kind of make everybody else on the island kind of feel guilty because she was like, "Oh, you're not being faithful enough." So that's why Valric kind of reminds me of her. And but like by the end of this series, you're like, "Oh man, I can't wait for this lady to get hers." And even towards the end, the lady's like, "Just because you're the most faithful doesn't mean you're a good person." Like, so like you could see like he's kind of pulling the strings and everything. And even like at one point he's like, "Oh, we gotta stay and show faith." And then when he sees the fight break out, he's like, "Oh, we gotta get out of here." And then when he got called out last issue too, he was like, And then when the other guy started beating on him, he's like, "Oh, now it's my time to shine again, to look like the good guy." But I feel like I kind of want to see him get his.
Well, I'm glad he's having the desired effect. I mean, that was so sort of the human part of this story, because that was the other thing was I knew I wanted to write a kaiju comic. That was the first thing when I went to write a comic. That was the first thing I knew I wanted to do was kaiju comic. And then the second part was like, okay, what's the story? And especially sort of the human story around that, because I think that's something that is hard to do in a lot of kaiju media, because you want to focus so much on the kaiju and that the humans either become an afterthought or just sort of, a way to get from battle to battle or whatever it is. And so I really wanted to add meaning to the human side of it. And so, just kind of taking that critical look on religion, but not necessarily all of religion, but sort of how it can be used to, sort of limit thought, or people can abuse the power of religion or the power of belief to influence others for their own good. And Falric is definitely the personification of that. He's, he portrays himself as this very noble, faithful healer, but everything he does is in his own self-interest. And, I think you guys, it's really, and his character gets really interesting, I think, over these next two issues where, he has his beliefs and he's been sort of the leader for so long, and now that's going to get challenged. And so what does he do to change it now that there's, another belief system introduced, another, sort of leader who's going to be introduced in this next issue? And, how is he going to deal with not being, sort of the one everybody just looks to for answers? Because that was something I definitely really wanted to focus on was, belief can be a really powerful positive force, but it can also be something that can be, weaponized and used to control people, used to, gain power, and people can use it selfishly. And so, showing that and having these literal manifestations of it in, the massive kaiju, but he's saying, "No, listen to me. I know what it's saying," and just sort of taking all the credit for himself.
Yeah. And just Nebo too. I mean, his character is awesome. Like, I would like to know more about him too. Like, he seems like he's very focused. Like, his main focus is, I want to survive. I want to help everybody else to survive. I could care less about the faith or the kaiju. I know Alkia had her parents, but we haven't seen anybody for Nebo. Is like that part of his personality, part of why he's so focused on survival? Like, is he on his own? Did he lose somebody?
Yeah. So I mean, it doesn't. One of the hard things was, this is a comic that I'd had in my head. Well, a story I should say that I had in my head for probably a couple years before I really started writing it. And so in my head, I have, sort of the answers to all these questions. But it was hard trying to figure out how do I, build the world and tell the story without just getting into every little detail.
Yeah.
And so I don't really ever give a clear explanation for that. At one point, I believe it was in issue 3, Alkia and Nebo are talking, and he says, I know how bad it hurts to lose them. And so in my sort of headcanon, in my idea of the world, he has lost his parents. And so that's kind of why, and he's kind of the cynic, right? So he's sort of the foil to, Falric's obviously the super zealous, like, religious leader, but then Alkia is more of just the believer. And then, so Nebo is kind of the foil to that. He's the cynic. He challenges that belief. And so it makes sense to me for a character, who is cynical. Well, a big reason for that, if he lost his parents, if he's on his own, he's not going to have as strong a faith, most likely because he's had all these terrible things happen to him. So he's not going to, he's going to look at things differently than Alkia, who's had all that support around her, who's sort of been, raised this way and brought up to believe these things.
All right.
No, definitely. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, I was kind of, my next question would be like, oh, what was like the like why kaiju? But you kind of already answered that. You always want to do kaiju. So what do you want to talk about the announcement or?
Sure, let's do it. And so yeah, so basically, like I said, I was originally kind of hoping to have, you know, the fourth book out, or at least the campaign started around this time. But unfortunately, Chris Sassman, who's been the artist on the first three issues, is no longer able to do it. He's just had too much stuff kind of come up in his personal. So we've had to change artists, which has been you know, a real bummer, because I think Chris is an awesome artist. First of all, he's extremely talented, and he's also been a lot of fun to work with. He's really been good about building this world. You know, he's asked a lot of questions. He hasn't just been, you know, it's not like I just give him a script and then he just draws whatever the words say. He's very involved as far as, you know, oh, well, you know, what's this character thinking? What, you know, how can we show this? And coming up with a lot of it. He's really helped build this Territory world. So, you know, all credit to Chris, because Territory wouldn't be where it is without him. But unfortunately, he won't be able to work on these last two issues just due to some circumstances. So we have brought a new artist on. His name is, and I'm probably gonna mispronounce this, so stay with me. It's Donny Hadiwidjaja, I believe. He's Indonesian. So our colorist Ichsan Ansori recommended him to me. He's worked with him before on some other books. He's been on. Donnie's done a couple other Kickstarter books. Gage and the Dragon's Tears one, and Punchline and the Vaudevillains is another one. So he's.
Oh, I've heard of that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and his work is awesome. So, you know, when we found out we were losing Chris, it was a bummer. You know, and then there's a process of how are we going to find someone whose style kind of matches this world and can replace, you know, sort of what he's done. And fortunately, Ichsan recommended Donnie. He's worked with him before, and then I spoke with him, and looking at his work, I think he's going to be a really good fit. His, you know, he has a style kind of similar to Chris's in some ways, which will be good, I think, for continuity's sake. But it'll also be really cool to see someone else do their take on this world. You know, it's all we've seen so far is Chris's take, and it's been amazing. But it'll be cool to see sort of a new take and how things go from there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Chris did an amazing job on those first three issues, and the colors have been great too. So I was gonna say, are you keeping the same colorist too? So that's perfect.
Yes, the rest of the team will stay the same. So me, Nicole, the editor, Ichsan, the colorist, and Marco Della Verde, Marco Della Verde, the letterer, will all be staying the same. So it'll just be the line art that's changing.
That's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
All right, we're looking forward to see his work. We'll have to look him up on the socials if he's got anything out there, and give him a follow.
Yeah, he does have Instagram. I could try to pull that up, but he's not on Twitter or anything. But yeah, like I said, I definitely think he's gonna. I think he's gonna crush it. I'm really excited. You know, it was hard. You know, kind of taking a break and having some changes with the book. This is my first project, so this was really one of the first challenges, and it definitely kind of made me nervous. But having him on board and seeing what he's done and talking to him, I think it's going to really, you know, I think we're going to go forward smooth, and I think it's going to turn out awesome.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it is definitely a road bump that you don't look for, but I mean, you've had so much success with the first three. I don't think 4 and 5 will be a problem at all getting the supporters out there.
Definitely not.
So I'm sure you're going to be super successful on the next two really fast.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And like I said, I appreciate all support from you guys. It has been really cool. You know, we've had a lot of people who have backed all three issues, who have reached out, you know, either through Kickstarter or Twitter or some sort of social media to talk about the book. And so it's been cool to see that people are enjoying it. You know, this is definitely something that it's, you know, I've had this in my mind for a while. This is something that's pretty personal to me. So I'm glad that, you know, people are really enjoying it. And I do think, you know, issue 3 really sort of dialed things up, and it doesn't really slow down from here. It's pretty pretty much that same sort of pace and level of excitement from here till the end. So I think these last 2 issues will hopefully be a real satisfying ending for everyone.
Oh, I can't wait. And where do you? I know you're up to 5, but where does it go after that? Do you think you would do a follow-up series? Would you do a sequel series? Maybe a spin-off? I mean, there's a whole world out there, so you could go other locations.
Totally. This is the end of this story as far as with these characters. I do have an idea for a spin-off story. I think after these first 5 issues are done, I'll probably do something non-territory related next, just because I have kind of some other ideas. And this was the territory story that I wanted to tell. But that being said, this is a really fun world to play in, and I'm really sort of proud of the way that it's been built and it's come together. And I have at least one idea for sort of another side story that wouldn't necessarily relate directly to this one, but would be in the same world, and have, kind of some similar things. And it would, some of the things that I wasn't able to do with this series, because it's, sort of the intro and only 5 issues, some bigger ideas that I could maybe do with the next one.
Oh, wow. Oh, all right. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. For anyone out there who's thinking about starting their own project, what's one piece of advice that you think is definitely like something that you didn't think about that you were like, oh, I wish I knew this before I started?
Yeah. I would say the biggest thing is, as hard as it is be patient. Take your time and, do it in the way that you want it to be done. I think, there's a lot of tips and stuff when you're getting into it, is like, to boost this, or, like people like this sort of thing. I think take your time, really focus on what's the story that I want to tell, and really make sure that you get it right. Because if your passion comes through, like if you take the time to really make sure that you are telling your story, I think that's a lot better than one that you're trying to sort of check a lot of boxes. And the other thing is, really take the time also to kind of build the team around you, especially as a newer creator. I know it was really intimidating to me to work on this, but when I brought in, the whole team's been awesome, and having an artist that I can talk to, and someone who's also interested in building the world, having a colorist who also knows what they're doing, and just making sure that synergy on the team works well. So just making sure you're taking the time to build your team up, and not just having people that you're just sending stuff and asking when is it done, but take that time to get that team, because then once everybody's sort of bought into the project, I think that'll really show through in the final.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm absolutely glad with the way it turned out. I mean, yeah, you really did build an awesome team. Like you can see everybody's work involved in these comics, from like you said, from the colors to the lines to the lettering. You've assembled a great team, and I'm sure that was not an easy task. I mean, you have so many people involved with this.
Yeah, not to mention all the different cover artists too. I mean, they're all amazing.
Yes.
I'm like, you have to pick one of them. I picked Neon, but I know Frankie's got a few of the Tannerite ones.
Yeah, I have the first. I had to go with the Godzilla covers. Yeah, and I love Mara's work, so I grabbed hers for the second issue.
Totally. And the cover artists have been kind of fun, because that's been one where that's just me sort of going and, finding artists I'm like, this is awesome. And so I just want to see, how you would draw these characters, or your take on this world. So that's been fun, because it's nice with them, because it's just more like, hey, it's just passion of like, I love your work and I would love to see you draw this. Are you interested in, and Mars obviously has been amazing. Her Neon stuff is so cool and so different, but it's been cool working with such a variety of cover artists too, and trying to get a variety of different colors. Having a manga one was cool. Yes. Having the Godzilla throwbacks, just like you can't do kaiju without doing some sort of homage to Godzilla. So it's been cool just, thinking of fun ideas to do for those and then seeing them come to life.
Oh yeah, I mean, everyone loves a good variant. I mean, I've become a sucker for it nowadays.
Oh, it's dangerous. It's a dangerous game.
It's a slippery slope, man.
Yes.
Yeah. So
What are you into right now? Is there any other comics or movies, video games that you're really driving right now that you're chasing it into?
So I just watched the for as far as kaiju stuff specifically, the Daimajin, what I think it's the trilogy.
Oh,
I just
Okay.
watched all of those recently. So I've kind of gotten into like, the, I guess, collectible Blu-ray, whatever it is, like Arrow and Criterion and all that, which is great because they've had a lot of, they have some kaiju stuff and just a lot of old, kind of Japanese movies and stuff like that. So I've been doing a lot of those. I did play Horizon somewhat recently, and then I'm probably going to start playing the second one soon, just because I really did like that first one. And then as far as comic wise, honestly, at this point, I don't really buy a whole lot of, sort of mainstream comics. A lot of the stuff I buy is from Kickstarter. There's just a lot of cool creators there. And I feel like, all the Kickstarter projects, you just feel you feel the passion. It's people that are, making books that they want to make. And so that's mostly where I get my comics now.
Yeah, I agree. I've enjoyed a lot of the Kickstarter crowdfunded comics more than the mainstream stuff. I mainly we just do the kaiju stuff now. There's just so much out there. I used to read all the DC stuff every week, all the Marvel stuff, all of everything, and it just was too much to keep up with. And I'm like, I'm just gonna keep it focused on the kaiju and Toku style comics myself, and it's just a lot. And but like you said, you see all the work that goes into these crowdfunded comics, and it's just such a higher tier quality comic.
Totally. Well, and plus, this isn't somebody that's been told what to write. This is somebody that's writing what they want to write, and the telling the stories they want to tell. The artists are getting to draw the way they want to draw. They're not having to match any sort of style or do anything like that. And so, yeah, just seeing that, and plus it's really cool. Just generally, like with the internet, there's so much more accessibility, especially to like kaiju and toku stuff that wasn't always super available here in the States. And and seeing smaller creators that are have that passion for that kind of stuff, but probably wouldn't have had an outlet before, and now they have an outlet to make that stuff. So it's just super cool. And I constantly check Kickstarter, just to kind of see what projects are out there, and there's almost always something that catches my eye.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much live on there now. I'm like, all right, what's coming out today?
yeah, I was like going for like a solid. I think it was like a couple months, or it was like almost every week I was getting a new Kickstarter delivered to my iPad.
Yes.
But
And that's another dangerous game, is you eventually, you start getting books and you're like, wait, which one was this? Which one did I order? And then you read it and you're like, oh yeah, that's why I was interested.
Yeah, I just keep. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna catch up, and just as I catch up, it just boom, 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 pile again. I'm like, oh.
100%.
It's crazy though, the amount of access we have now though. I mean, just in the span of 10 years, I mean, we went from next to nothing to like this boom of just so much content. I mean, who would have thought like we would have like pretty much almost all of the Ultraman at home? We're getting a Kamen Rider now. So many of these kaiju movies out. The SRS stuff. It's insane the amount of stuff that's finally come over here, and it's awesome though. I mean, we have Ultraman on Netflix, Gamera's on Netflix. I mean,
for that one.
It's some age right now that we're in. And Frankie B from Kaiju and Cowboys is always saying we're in a kaiju revolution, and I think we really are.
Yeah, I agree. And Frankie's awesome. He's another one that I love talking to him and seeing his stuff, because he's just so passionate about it. But I think you're right. Like this is sort of kind of a new golden age for kaiju and toku media and stuff, because all these people that have enjoyed it and now have access to it, all the creators that have wanted to make it but haven't really had a place to put it, now they have places where they can get it out to the world, and so it's awesome to see.
Yeah, and we're just really looking forward to what's coming next with you, man. I mean, we can't wait to see 4 and 5. I really hope if you can pull them out this year. I mean, we're just so eager to get our hands on these comics.
Definitely. Well, I'll definitely keep you guys updated. Like I said, so we've actually yesterday Donny did start drawing. So I think it's we're within the next couple months, which and he's fairly experienced as well, so he was able to come up with a pretty defined schedule of when he'll be able to get everything done. And the rest of the team's all on board too. So within the next couple months, we'll be ready. Once I kind of just have a little bit more to go off of, I'm gonna start, pushing out info for the campaign and everything. And once it starts, my plan is to just get right back where we were, when we were doing issues 2 and 3, and just kind of keep it rolling.
All right.
Awesome. Awesome stuff.
We'll make sure to have all your stuff linked in the description down below. Is there anything that you want to shout out as far as like social media that you want definitely people to keep following or something?
So probably the best place is Twitter and Instagram. It's the same. It's just at BMC Comics, so BMCCOMICS. Those are going to be kind of the places I do most of the announcements. And then obviously on Kickstarter itself, especially once I get that pre-launch page up, I'll be pushing that out. And then, the pre-launch page is a really nice kind of newer addition to Kickstarter where you can follow there, and I can, give a little bit of a preview before the campaign goes live. So I'm excited to really build that out this time too.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the pre-launches now. I'm always like, all right, what can I pre-launch sign up for?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be first in line to join you.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Like I said, I appreciate all the support you guys have given, and it's cool because it's fun to see the comics community get into this, but it's also cool seeing some people who may not necessarily be into comics a whole lot, but just like kaiju who are digging the book too.
Yeah. Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, definitely. Yeah, well,
I think that about wraps us up, right?
Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to check out Blake's stuff. We'll have links for everything down below, and see you guys next time. Bye.
Thank you, guys.